The debate on Channel 9 sucked. It really sucked. The format was garbage. Most of the questions were garbage. Okay, a little swing here, a little swing there, to give us a little bit of sauce to throw on the meat here tonight. But honestly, you didn't miss much. You truly didn't miss much. That said, there are 5 things worth pointing out. We will talk about them and debate them, but I'm not going to pretend this was the most riveting debate you've ever seen. It is almost as forgotten as you forgot that it was even on, and I'm glad that you did. Thanks for watching us here on Paul Murray Live here on Sky News tonight. We'll do analysis with Chris Kenny, Joe Hildebrand in a second, and then we'll have plenty of fun for the rest of the show, as well as introduce you to somebody who I think is going to make quite an impact in the Senate should they get elected. But, yep, let's get to it. The 5 things you need to know about this debate. Number 1, Dutton yet again nailed the Prime Minister on this Medicare, mediscare lie. They keep saying it. They lie directly to the Australians each and every day. The media never take them up on it because they don't want to be left off the Christmas card list of the bloke that they think or want to win. So I liked when Peter Dutton did this on national TV.
When we were in government and I was the Health Minister, hospital funding went up by 16%. And the Prime Minister stands here with a straight face and says what he knows not to be true. And I think, again, it'd be great to see him called out because he continues to repeat these mistruths, and Australians deserve better from their Prime Minister.
No, you described it as a cut. The 2014 budget described it as a cut, as a saving.
If you were being honest, you would admit that funding went up each year, each and every
30
year.
billion in education.
Every year,
our population is increasing. You had the allocation that had been previously put in the budget prior to you coming to office. You ripped $80 billion out of those 2 items in 2014.
Prime Minister, you couldn't lie straight in bed, honestly. This is unbelievable.
You can go to abuse.
No, well, it's just,
you can go to
personal
reality. Abuse. That's a sign of desperation, Peter, frankly.
As he's lying.
That's a sign of desperation.
Again, just a small thing, right? Like, look, I'm a lucky bugger to do this job, but I've been doing it for long enough. If you do things that don't address the camera, it means you are not talking to the people at home. Again, the way it was all set up is that you have the moderator who wasn't between the 2 candidates but was between the 2 elements of the debate, which is all of the people who work for the different things that Channel 9 owns and the 2 candidates. The candidates were then always either looking at each other or looking at the host or looking at... Which meant, see, they're never actually looking at you. I found that irritating for the hour. Remember, it is about you. But this was one of those little media examples where it was about them. But I like that moment. Phil Coorey, though, I'm not going to throw him as out with the bathwater here. He was best on ground. The bloke from the Financial Review, I think he's one of the best in the Canberra Press Gallery. So every time I bag the Canberra Press Gallery, imagine there's an asterisk next to it, and Philip Coorey is the exception to that rule. Here's what he said when it came to cost of living. Good question. Remember, number 1 issue should have been the whole debate rather than, just this bit.
Mr Albanese, you said 3 years ago that people would be better off under Labor at the end of the first term. I would suspect that's most people don't think, thinks that that's the case at the moment. So why should voters trust you to give you trust you for another 3 years?
Well, Phil, we understand that many people are doing it tough, which is why we've provided significant cost of living relief. But we've had to do it in a way that put that downward pressure on inflation. As a result, inflation has a 2 in front of it.
Are you prepared to repeat that pledge that in another 3 years' time?
Oh, we certainly want people to be better off in 3 years' time, and that is what it's about.
The problem was 3 years ago you promised they would be. That promise clearly broken. Elections are looking back at the job of the past 3 years and deciding, do you rehire the same people to do the same job? Do you reward just a different version of the same lie? Again, Philip Coorey, again with a question where he takes up to date, well done team, where it takes up to date the question around the budget. Now again, Phil's the type of person who, like you, me, Joe and Chris, we count the grains of sand on the beach. It seemed that this debate was pitched to the people who needed to be reminded there was a beach, which is why the Prime Minister can turn around and sort of pretend what the history was, pretend that he's fighting the 2012 election or the 2007 election or the 2052 election, because his assumption is that most people don't follow the detail. Well, thankfully, Phil does, which meant he was able to poke this one straight in the middle of the Prime Minister's garbage.
PM, look, you've mentioned your 2 surpluses tonight, and if I can just take issue, the 78 billion you inherited was actually a forecast. The actual number was 31 billion.
That was forecast by the former government.
Sure, but the actual number was 31. And next year you're forecasting a $42 billion surplus, which is bigger in both dollar terms and as a share of the economy. So you could argue the budget's actually in worse nick in terms of deficit.
Ooh, facts. Facts. It actually matters. It should matter. I think it's going to matter to more people, and that's going to be some part of a surprise in some seats in some places. Because, again, the media think it's all about Trump. It's all about, lies that are 10 years old from the Labor Party, or lies that have been how many elections in a row when it comes to Medicare, despite the fact that the Liberal Party always spends more each and every year, and in this election is promising to spend even more than the Labor Party. Fair income. Which brings me to what I think was one of the stage directions for the way this debate was put together. Now, obviously, media organisations, they have their way of doing things or what they think the audience wants. I think there was part of the construction of this debate which was about trying to finish off Peter Dutton. If they were able to do so, then what they would like to get to, which is the coronation of the great lefty king, the 21st century Hawke, the 22nd century Whitlam. Because have a look at the questions. And again, when the questions were a bit of a surprise, they'd always go to Dutton first, giving Albo a chance to think of the smart answer for the compare and contrast. Just a little thing, but we noticed this stuff.
You've had your fair share of stumbles and one memorable policy backflip on the work from home, but probably one of the bigger factors, overriding factors, has been a tendency of voters to associate you in a negative fashion with Donald Trump. What do you say to those voters out there who think you're a lightweight version of the unpopular US president?
Mr Dutton, given Phil's point there that people aren't feeling better, why aren't you miles ahead in this election? And more to the point, why are you seemingly quite a long way behind when it comes to women of a working age?
Mr Dutton, is it still the best use of taxpayer dollars to be halving the fuel excise? Do you still think that you would be the only leader on earth to get a better deal for Australia on tariffs?
But not the talking points. Not like we've heard that tonight. Like, what do you stand for?
Mr Dutton, we don't see a lot of your softer side. Do you think that your time as a police officer led you to have a black and white view of the world?
Now, perfect example, that last question there, right? What do? There's the natural personality that says, I beg your pardon? Of course, the real answer is, look, yes, I'm a serious person who works hard on serious things. Things like the border, things like police, things like building my own business. And yes, I'm not going to be a flashy Prime Minister who's going to be firing the money cannon the way that this bloke does. But I promise you this will turn up each and every day, blah, 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 blah. But of course, in his head, and this is the way the media that works, right? The psychological warfare of just the bash, 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 the multi-front attack on your personality is, well, if I'm too aggressive, they're going to interpret that as a... So it's all designed to become a fumble. And then if it becomes a fumble, then see, he's not up to the... See, that's what I'm saying about just all of the little... Again, right? Game recognises game, okay? I put a bit of thinking into what I say on the telly. I'm assuming they put a bit of thinking into what they said on the telly. I'm assuming the very same television network that, remember, was running Mission Accomplished months before inflation was anywhere between 2 and 3%, are the same people making the decision they like the current administration for whatever reason. And this multi-host thing sucks. It really sucks. Because in the People's Forum, we have a moderator who can follow up, but the point of the debate is members of the public ask a question. The X factor is they don't ask a question like a reporter, and because they're not a reporter, they have to answer it. Nice, good format, right? ABC format that they decided to go with, single host meant you could follow up, and we got the moments like we did about Albo failing to be able to say when power prices were going down. But if everyone gets a turn and you're two and when, you never get a momentum up to start to say this is the meaty part. And remember, what did Mike Tyson say? Everyone's got a plan in a fight until you get punched in the face. So, OK, everyone had their moment, and it's, TV fairness. If someone's got the better question, then let's do that for the next 5 minutes. But sadly, again, it just wasn't that way. And I like Ali, OK? So this is not me whacking into her. It's the way the thing was constructed, all right? Again, I like Phil, but it's the way this thing was constructed, OK? So the multi-panel thing, garbage, because it also means that when everyone gets a turn, you don't get to things that matter to people, right? You don't talk about immigration in a proper sense. Prime Minister is still rubbing this garbage in that the reason the net migration was higher was because Australians were coming home. They're already Australians. They don't count in that overall number, but he's just allowed to say it and nobody doubles up on it. Because this is the debate for the people who just remember the beaches there, not the people who count. Come on. This is the very rare opportunity once every 3 years to actually hold them to a little bit of detail. That said, I did like one thing about the debate. And it's a mark of most of the TV debates, and it'll be the same one for Channel 7, which is coming up on Sunday. And don't you love how every other TV station doesn't mention the other TV station the debates are on? You see, I'm adult enough to realise that while this is the best, and you're watching this right now, and we're number one in your head and your heart, on the old school TV, there's 100 options. And then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. I know them all, right? So when it's on Channel 2, I'll say it's on Channel 2. When it's on Channel 7, I'll say it's on Channel 7. I'm not going to say commercial TV. Or what was the wankers from the ABC? A paywall subscription TV, please. Pull the other one, it plays Jingle Bells. But I did like that they've always sort of go for that. So what do you want to say that's nice about each other? And what I like about this is because they squirm, right? Because they obviously hate each other, and why wouldn't they? It's the grand final. It's the start of the third quarter. I'm pretty sure both of the players who might get on the cans when they go to Bali after the game are not going to have much to say before the game is over. But it's fun watching them squirm.
Prime Minister, you've called Mr Dutton mean-spirited and cold-hearted. What are 3 things you admire about him?
3. Look, we
only ever prepare for one. This is a problem.
Let me say this: he bats way above his average with Kirrily. He has a terrific family. I've had the privilege, and he clearly cares about them, and that's a terrific thing. Longevity in politics. We've been in Parliament for basically the same amount of time, almost. Both been there for more than 20 years. That's an achievement. And Peter, in that time as well, has had a tough seat that he's contested consistently over a long period of time.
There you go. It was a glowing endorsement, wasn't it, Mr Dutton? Now, you've called Mr Albanese the weakest Prime Minister we've had since Federation. Can you say something nice and to make it fair, 3 things?
Well, I'll start with family as well, and I admire the Prime Minister's fathership. Nathan's a great young bloke. And similarly with Jodie. I've come to know Jodie and meet her at different events, and have a great deal of respect for them both, and I wish them well.
We're both punching above our weight.
That is well and truly the case. I, again, acknowledge the Prime Minister's support of AUKUS from opposition, and it wasn't an easy outcome, as he pointed out. He was satisfied that nuclear energy was safe, but he got that through the caucus, which was a difficult thing. And AUKUS, when we negotiated it, it was about underpinning our security for the next century. And that's 3, isn't it?